this computer. Okay, we're recording this. So welcome everyone. Happy to have you with us. Let me tell you about our wonderful speaker today. This is Elon Perry. He is an Israeli journalist and an international lecturer. Elon Perry has worked as a reporter, an editor, and columnist, and as a researcher investigator for several Israeli newspapers, as well as for radio and television. He served for 3 years as a combat soldier in a commando unit of the IDF, taking part in the wars between Israel and Palestinians. Elon now breaks down misconceptions and misinformation today about what is really happening between Israel and the Palestinians right now. He is going to share with us the truth far beyond what we see in the media. So we will begin with Elon speaking, and at the end, we will open it up to questions and answers. But for now, we welcome Elon Perry from London, England. Thank you for being with us, Elon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. So as you know all, I'm going to make it very, very quick because I'm normally lecture about these two subjects for about 2 hours. I'll make it very quick. Today's actually tomorrow in Israel, it's Yom Yerushalayim. As you heard on the news, there is a lot of demonstration and violence, demonstration and conflicts between Arabs and Israeli forces over Jerusalem again. So I'm going to connect the Yom Yerushalayim to the lecture I normally give about the conflict, about the Palestinian conflict, because it has a link, it has a significant link. I'll tell you from my own research experience as a historian, as a journalist, and as someone who spoke to thousands of Palestinians over 25 years. I will talk about it later. My conclusion is that the war over Jerusalem, the war with the Palestinians, with the terror, and prior to that, with the countries, with Egypt, Jordan, the 60 war, 73 war, they were not about Jaffa or Ashdod or Haifa or Yavna. As you know, before the establishment of Israel, most of Israel, from Ashkelon up to North Haifa and east to Beit Shean, they were all Arab villages and towns. So the war that started, there was the land back, it was over the land back. But actually what I discovered after 25 years of research, that the war is over Jerusalem, the holy Jerusalem, that it become holy to the Muslims since the Islam was created 1400 years ago or something. And Muslims believe that Muhammad was ascended to heaven from Jerusalem. So the war, the terror, the war, the conflict, the all wars between Arabs and Israel, and lately between the terror organization in Israel, is mainly over Jerusalem. So that's the point I would like to make it clear in the beginning. Just roughly about Jerusalem. Jerusalem, after the exile, the Jews were exiled, was forced to exile 2,000 years ago, after the first and second temple were destroyed by the Romans and by the Greek empires. Jews little by little came back to the Holy Land and lived in peace and harmony with Arabs and other minorities. There was another era that emphasized it, is under the Ottomans Empire. The Ottomans embraced the Jews. You'll be surprised. The Ottomans embraced the Jews, and they consider them as the chosen people, and they protect them against any pogroms. So in general, the Arabs and Jews and some Christians and some other minorities like Druze and others live together in peace in Jerusalem. The history of Jerusalem began when, after the Exodus, when Moses died in Har Nevo, Yeshua ben Nun took over the leadership and brought the Hebrews. They were called the Hebrews, but after the Torah was given in Sinai, they were called the Jews. Yeshua ben Nun brought the Jews into the land, the promised land, but it was in war. It wasn't in peace. He had to fight many nations there. And then, of course, they succeed. I will jump later on. In the picture, you can see King David. So there was a lot of kingdoms, a lot of prophets, a lot of kingdoms, a lot of prosperity in Israel, but mainly Jerusalem. And again, I emphasize Jerusalem was the first settlement, the first Jewish settlement in Israel, in the Holy Land, was Jerusalem, where Abraham was asked to sacrifice his son and all those stories. Move over, Solomon. As you see, this is the famous trial that Solomon was known as of his wisdom, and he was asked to determine who is the real mother of this baby. Cut the story short, he asked to kill the baby, and according to the way of the woman, one of the two women will react, he will determine who is the real mother. As you see, the real mother was the one who's screaming, and so and so and so. And then we move over hundreds and hundreds of years, so we can, because we don't have time. So we will talk now about the establishment of the Jewish state, what led to it, and how the establishment of the Jewish state led to the terror and the wars against the Arabs. There are 4 photos I took from four different countries in Europe, one of them in Russia. As you see, the pogroms against the Jews. There was many persecutions and pogroms and killing and slaughtering the Jews, all because they were Jews. There was nothing else to accuse them but being Jews. The peak was Dreyfus trial. Dreyfus was a French officer, Jewish French officer, who was accused of treason. Of course, later on it was discovered that it was blood label. He was acquitted, and but this one a turning point, as far as I'm concerned. This was a turning point in the Jewish history. This was the trigger for someone called Theodor Herzl to start a movement called the Zionist movement to build a safe state shelter for the Jewish people who suffer persecutions. And as I said, Dreyfus was the trigger because Theodor Herzl was a lawyer and a journalist, and he attended that court and he was shocked by it. So he started many moves. There's no time now to talk about the many moves and efforts this dear man put his own money to convince the world and convince the Jews to accept his idea. This has done. He created the movement called Zionism, and in 1897, he formed the first Congress, what you see in the picture. The first Congress was a very significant point because then the Jewish people all over the world accept the idea of the Zionism idea. To have a Zionism movement, it will form the idea and start to put the efforts and the money and all what it takes to establish that idea called the Shivat Zion, the return to the promised land, or to build a state in Uganda, for example. Herzl brought an idea of building a state in Uganda, East Kenya, and he was having a lot of difficulties to materialize that, because most of the Congress members 700 of the members of Congress were Jewish rabbis from Russia, and they outright the idea. They said nothing by Zion, by Shivat Zion. Israel is the only place to go to. Herzl tried to convince them it's only temporary until there will be enough money and time and efforts to convince the world to come to Palestine, but it didn't help him. Eventually, he died. He was under stress. He got ill. In 1904, he was only 44 years old. Herzl died of a heart attack. Excuse me. When Herzl died, the Zionist idea froze, but not for very long. About 25 years later, a charismatic leader named Ben Gurion. It's not an airport. Ben Gurion is David Ben Gurion. No, I'm laughing because last week I gave the lecture to teenagers in somewhere. Where was it? England. Like, and they thought Ben Gurion was an airport. So I just want to make sure. So now we go back. We let's go to Palestine and talk about Palestine in those days. Ben Gurion was making contacts. He was trying to revive the idea of building a Jewish state in Palestine, not in Uganda, nothing else. During those days, as you see of the picture in the next one, in Palestine, Jews and Arabs again lived together in peace and harmony. There was no quarrels, no fights, because they're both bonded by one faith, one God. They believed in one God, and both nations believed that Abraham was the father of their nations. So that was the bond that actually connected the Jews and Arabs to live together. They respect each other. They went to bar mitzvahs and weddings together to each other. They made business with each other. Even they got married. Now, in the picture, it's not a Jewish mother, because according to Judaism, it's important that the mother will be Jewish, then the children will be Jewish. But this man was so brave that his name is Albert Levy. He married a Muslim woman to show that nothing will stop them from being, because after all, we are cousins. This picture was given to me by my grandfather, who was a judge in Morocco, and he got it in his collection. And it was really, really something that my grandfather was a religious person, and he saw this as a proof, ultimate proof, how the harmony between Arabs and Jews existed over hundreds of years in Palestine/Israel. Excuse me. And as you see, also in Jerusalem, there was no quarrels over Jerusalem. Like you all heard the news today, again, bloodshed and violence, confrontations between the Israeli forces and some Arabs. About 300 got wounded, and it's happening nearly every year because of Yom Yerushalayim. But in those days, even in Jerusalem, Arabs and Jews trade with each other. They went to pray in the same kotel, the same Temple Mount that it's holy to the Arabs, to the Muslims, and they were together. They shook hands, and maybe they had lunch together afterwards, and it was all lovely, harmony, beautiful. So what happened then? What happened to that ideal? If it was 50 years time, the ideal, okay, we can understand, some fanatics can ruin it, but it's hundreds of years of peace and harmony between Arabs and Jews. What brought that ideal to a halt? The answer was this. In 1917, Balfour, who was a British Secretary of State, he was convinced. He didn't do it because he loved Jews. I believed that when I was a teenager in high school, but when I became a researcher, no. It was money and it was other things. In that year exactly, I think a year or in that year, few months later or few months before, the British got the mandate over Palestine. So there was a big interest there. Second interest was money. A lot of Jewish people, with the help of Herzl, that he started that, and Ben Gurion continue, contribute money. One of them was Chaim Weizmann, who was the first president of Israel. He was a scientist, he was a genius scientist, and he contributed for free. He gave for free to reinforce the British army, who lost a lot in the First War, and Chaim Weizmann helped to rebuild the British army, and many other things. I will not go through them now. The Balfour Declaration I know you know what is it, but I just say it in those, if one person doesn't know, is actually saying that we are the British, we support the return of the Jewish people to the homeland. So we're going to allow now a mega immigration for the Jews who are suffering from pogroms and persecutions in Europe to immigrate to Palestine to live in peace and harmony again with the Arabs. That was the Balfour Declaration. It was supported by King George V. It was supported by many, many other countries and leaders. They all understand how the Jews are suffering, and they agree to allow Jews to arrive to Palestine to live with the Arabs. Now, why it was okay to do that? So the answer is what I was talking about before that, 5 minutes ago. The Arabs and Jews and the British realized that actually there is harmony and peace between the Arabs in Israel and Jews in Jerusalem, in Palestine. There's no reason why not to allow some more Jews to come over. Those Jews who are suffering from persecution and looking for some safe place to live. So it was okay among 70% of the Arabs who lived in Palestine. They welcomed Jews to Palestine. When we studied this subject in high school, I was 17. I had a big mouth. I always say something to the teachers. And I said, and I remember that I made a remark, and I said something about the return of the Jews to Palestine, and with the support of the British. And it was like something, I don't remember it now. It will come to me. I've got blackout. I was going to say something, but never mind. I made some remark about that, but it's fed away. I will come back to it now later on. So the Balfour Declaration allowed Jews to immigrate to Palestine and live with the Arabs. Ben-Gurion took advantage of it, and he started traveling all over, including Canada and America and other countries, to convince the leaders of the world to encourage and allow their Jews to come to live in Palestine. By the way, Jews didn't want to come, didn't want to listen to Ben-Gurion. And now this is what I was going to say 2 minutes ago when I had a blackout. I said to the teacher that maybe the Holocaust, those who died in the Holocaust in Germany, German people, maybe it's their fault because they didn't listen to Ben-Gurion. And as I said, I had a big mouth. I shouldn't have said that, but I was a child, and I said that because my language is telling me, why didn't you listen? The German didn't listen because they felt they were Germans more than Jews. They were married with Germans. They share the same culture, the same music, the same food. They didn't believe that someone will kill them, will perish them. So they didn't want to listen to Ben-Gurion. Ben-Gurion was very upset. He went to Austria. He didn't succeed. Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and Holland, and also the north in Sweden, Jews didn't want to listen to Ben-Gurion. They said, why do we have to go to Palestine? According to Mark Twain, who was sent there years before by the Americans, he was a journalist. According to his report, Palestine is a very neglected place. Why would we leave this prosperity in Europe and go to Palestine? So nobody want to listen to him. However, Eastern Europeans who suffered pogroms and persecutions, and Russian Jews, did listen to Ben-Gurion, and they start making the aliyahs. The first aliyah was in 1920 and 1921, 1922, when the Zionist pioneers, Russians, arrived in Palestine and built the first kibbutzes. The first kibbutzes was the proof of the first pioneers who came to Israel under against all odds, and they did it. They managed to arrive. The Aliyah continued for another 2 or 3 years. Ben-Gurion succeeded to convince many Jews to arrive, and they agree, and they got on ships. The ships were subsidized by wealthy Jewish people who gave money and contribute to that, and the mega aliyah was start to bring some concerns. What was the concern? The main concern was that the Arabs in Palestine feared that too many Jews will arrive, they will outnumber them. Now, objectively, it makes sense. I understand it. If I was a Muslim in those, one of the leaders, not the Muslims, because the Muslims, as I will explain about the Palestinians I spoke to with Israel, they love to live with the Jews. They were okay. The problem was the 20% extremists and leaders, like we have to do with the terror. And they saw that as a problem. To be honest, objectively, if I was one of the leaders, it makes sense. I was here for more than 1,000 years. Why would you come and outnumber me and take control over the country? So that was the thing that caused the concern among the Muslims in Palestine and led to violence. Violence, it's not only fighting in a pub. It was literally bombing homes and synagogues and pogroms and massacres. I'm not going to go through it now. There's a lot. You remember the Hebron massacre, the Jerusalem massacre, the Jaffa massacre. It was really intense, full of violence, full of hatred, to the point that even the Arabs who loved to live with Jews began to be convinced, and they joined force with the leaders to fight to harm the Jews in Palestine, so they can send a message to the world, to the Jews in the world: do not dare to arrive to Palestine because you will be slaughtered. The British found themselves in trouble. They were controlling Palestine. They didn't know what side to take. On one hand, their government asking them to take the side of the Jews. But on the other hand, the mandate itself, what is the mandate? The mandate is given by the United Nations today, but before that, it was sort of, what is the mandate actually? Mandate is not somebody who is going to control the country by force and take it. He was giving that mandate to place order, to improve the country, to contribute. So the British was in big dilemma, what to do. We are in mandate here to make peace between the two fighters. On the other hand, our king, who will argue the king? Leave Balfour now. The king is supporting the Balfour Declaration to allow Jews to arrive. What should we do? There was a big problem. They didn't know what to do. So they decided to stop the immigration of the Jews. And that was really Tisha B'Av for the Jews. If you remember the white paper, HaSefer HaLavan, okay, the white paper was a statement published by the British to forbidden Jews from arriving to Palestine. That's it. They stopped. They couldn't come here. The Jews start fighting against it. It didn't help them. I will move over now 20 years. Then something historical happened. A turning point again, that was the trigger for the Jews to build the Jewish state. The Shoah was horrible, but it served as a trigger, as I said, for Ben-Gurion and many other Zionists, Sokolov and many others, to arrive to Palestine under war with the Arabs to try to establish. But while doing that, Ben-Gurion traveled again to the world. He went to the United Nations to convince them to have it by law. And he managed to get a lobbying, convinced many other countries to agree. And eventually, Ben-Gurion got this lovely day in 1948. He managed to declare the establishment of the Jewish state called Israel. I just made I talked about history, 6 hours history in 20 minutes. Okay, so now let's talk about Israel. What happened here? Many people in the streets of Tel Aviv, get outside and start dancing, if you remember those photos, dancing, celebrating the country, the new state of the Jewish people. One person didn't dance in that night. It was Ben-Gurion himself. When I read his biography, I discovered that in half page, he was sitting in the balcony watching the people dancing. His son Amos came to him and said, "Daddy, why are you sad? You made it all. You created all this. Why are you sad? Everybody is dancing." He took his son, stroked his hair, and he said, "Son, everybody is dancing now, but tomorrow will be war, a long, long, bloody war." And he was right. The next day, the very next day, Egyptian Air Force bombed Tel Aviv, central station in Tel Aviv, and war started between the Arabs and the Jews over Palestine. War that, of course, I will jump now. I can't talk about all those wars. There was wars that Ben-Gurion decided to form. There were undergrounds. I didn't have time to speak about the undergrounds who fought the British and the Arabs, Lehi, Etzel, Haganah. Ben-Gurion decided to form them all under one name called Tzahal, one army. And they start training them and to fight the Arabs. The war of 67, 73, Yom Kippur, all those wars, I'm going to go fast forward, and I'm going to get to Lebanon war. And this is the point that I will talk about the conflict. The Lebanon war I participated in. I was young for Yom Kippur war. We discovered the terror. The terror is not easy target to fight. As a fighter, I'm telling you, if I fought against a country with army and air force and tanks, it's easier for me to plan the battle. When you fight against terrorists, you don't know who's hiding in the room because they use people as human seals. It was difficult war. Nevertheless, 1982, Israel decided to get into Lebanon to abolish the terror cell called PLO, who were bombing Israel nonstop. I hate to put pictures of myself, but Gillian asked me to do it today, so because she thinks it will help. I marked on the red arrows. This is the activity we did in Lebanon to abolish the PLO totally. The one on the top was very, very dangerous one. I remember we nearly got killed there. We faced many ambush there. So the picture on the right showing you what we conquered on that battle on that picture on the top on the left. We eventually made it and we took it over with the help of Sayeret Matkal and other better soldiers than I. I'm only a regular soldier in unit, commando unit, but there were other great people who sacrificed their life to get this mountain. The picture underneath, it was not only the battles, we also had to initiate many patrols inside Lebanon to protect the kibbutzes from being attacked. Also, we went inside Lebanon. The picture on the left, as you see, this is Marjayun. We will take patrols, very dangerous one, because we will be attacked from the houses in the side, and on the right there were some fields. We will be attacked, but we were totally confident. As you see, we walked confidently. We managed to find many terror cells, sporadic terror cells and weapons, and clear them up. The one on the right, also a patrol that we did morning and night. I was leading this patrol because I was replacing a lieutenant who died the day before in one of the ambush we encountered in this area. He died instantly from a bullet in his head. I took him over and we tried to save his life. We couldn't. It was a very sad event that I will never forget in my life because he was very patriotic, kibbutznik, one who inspired us. He was the one who taught me how to overcome fears and how to jump from the airplane with some tricks. I'm not going to go through it now, but he was the one who inspired us how to overcome fears and fight those terrorists. And yet, not to shoot children. Later on, I'll bring example, not to shoot civilians. He was the one who inspired us to do that. And we did. So now I'm jump over And the terror is totally different war, as I said. It's very, very difficult to fight the terror. You have to be articulate. You have to be well trained. That's why they choose us, the commando units, to go over there. Tanks will give us a backup. Air Force, of course, we love them. They give us backup. Intelligence, Mossad, all that help us. But we were the one to be sent inside, face to face to the enemy, and get the job done. And many got killed. I've lost 17 friends of mine in those battles, 5 members of my family. It's painful. But today, Yom Yerushalayim, I don't want to feel sad, and I think it's worth it. What we did there brought us to the situation today that we have fights only in Gaza. The West Bank is totally peaceful now. Hezbollah is just talking; he doesn't do anything. So we managed to abolish the PLO from Lebanon, and we decreased the terror significantly with the big job. Now, my experience with the Palestinians, I'll make it short because somebody is telling me we have no time. The problem with the terror is that we don't have 80% of the Palestinians, they want peace with Israel. 20% as the extremists who don't want that. As a journalist, I risked my life and traveled dozens of times to Gaza and the West Bank. There I interviewed brave local people who told me the truth, that they want peace with Israel, they need Israel, they suck from Israel, but they are scared of their leaders. They told me that the Palestinian leadership does not want peace with Israel because the war with Israel make them look as victims in the eye of the world and get them support, financial support. Biden now brought it back, but Trump stopped it. But the Red Cross and every other organizations. Those local people, there are many of them, and there are only few of them who dare to say the truth, and they were killed. I witnessed myself when I was in reserve in Gaza. We were chasing somebody, and that somebody later on was discovered that he killed one of those Palestinians who dare to say the truth. I'm going to show you a clip, very short one, so you will know.
Thank you, United Nations.
What I'm talking about.
Shukran, Sayyid Rais. I take the floor on behalf of...
I would like to stop it for a second. I spoke to this guy. This guy, it says very important to say who this guy is. This guy is a son of a mega terrorist who served time in jail in Israel. He dared to come out. He fled to America to say the truth. A son of a terrorist. He fled to America and he's saying the truth in the United Nations.
Most Palestinians.
Sorry.
Thank you, United Nations.
Shukran, Sayyid Rais. I take the floor on behalf of the UN Watch. My name is Mus'ab Hassan Youssef. I grew up in Ramallah as a member of Hamas. I address the words to the Palestinian Authority, which claims to be the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. I ask, where does your legitimacy come from? The Palestinian people did not elect you, and they did not appoint you to represent them. You are self-appointed. Your accountability is not to your own people. This is evidenced by your own total violation for their human rights. In fact, the Palestinian individual and their human development is the least of your concerns. You kidnap Palestinian students from campus and torture them in your jails. You torture your political rivals. The suffering of the Palestinian people is the outcome of your selfish political interest. You are the greatest enemy of the Palestinian people. If Israel did not exist, you would have no one to blame. Take responsibility for the outcome of your own actions. You fan the flames of conflict to maintain your abusive power. Finally, you use this platform to mislead the international community, to mislead the Palestinian society, to believe that Israel is responsible for the problems you create. Thank you.
Now look, everybody is shocked. Everyone, this man, he died last year from Corona. Everyone is shocked. I met this guy, and I met, as I said, hundreds like these guys over years that I was traveling to Gaza as a journalist, not as a soldier. And I'm telling you, this message is on behalf of 80% of the Palestinians. I've been there, I met them, I spoke to them, I know. There's no time to show you the other one.
Palestinians cannot say publicly what I'm saying here. We want peace with Israel. We have had enough of this mythical lie.
This is another one from Jordan.
Your money, your tax euros are financing the Palestinian police force, which oppresses us, tortures us, and puts us in disappearance. This happens while you guys are obviously caring for us in good intentions, but your judgment is very cloudy. Unfortunately, most of you are seeking to destroy the very and only source of income and stability that we have, which is the Israeli Jewish state. That state has offered us every hope there is collective. You can't grant us justice by denying justice to our Jewish neighbors. They are our neighbors. 500,000 Palestinians every single day cross the borders to work in Israeli settlements, in Israeli homes, in Israeli hospitals. They work there, achieving European standard payments versus the non-payments of the Palestinian Authority.
Okay, so I just brought two, but if you Google it, you find maybe many. I will now tell one story. There's no time. I could say 3 or 4 stories from my own experience to link it to the truth again. We are blamed. I heard many. We are blamed about that the IDF shooting, killing children in Gaza. I've seen the science. I've seen the demonstrations, and I'm telling you, it's a lie. I myself, speaking to you right now, I don't read from papers. I speak to you from my head. I've been there. I fought. I risked my life many times when I had to shoot someone, and I hold my fire. I didn't shoot because there were children there. And thousands of soldiers, we've been ordered not to shoot when there is civilians. This one, I'm going to make it very short because it's a very long story. We were chasing a wanted terrorist, very dangerous one. According to the Shabak, you know, I'm not going to make it now long. When we chase someone, it's the Shabak, the intelligence Israeli, asking us to do it. And he gave us the address, the description, and everything. This time he asked us to bring him alive because he's got very important information to give. So we risk our life through the chase. We chase him about a mile into valleys, houses, homes, children, civilians. Some of them tried to shoot at us too, but we managed to get there. Some of us got wounded. We were determined to get him alive, but we got to a school. This is what you see, it's a school, it's a class. We got to a school, we got a dilemma. We didn't know what to do, we couldn't shoot, there were children. So we got the order to cease fire. The one of us who spoke Arabic went down with a megaphone, asked all the children to concentrate them in the first floor. And then we went to the second floor, the long corridor that led to the classes, and we literally took risk. You know, you have to be there to understand what you see in the movies. It's nothing. It's really, really scary. You don't know when you open the door who's going to be there and how he's going to shoot you, from what angle. We did it because we were determined to get him, and the job has to be done. We went room by room, and then eventually we got to one room. I'll make it short, but that room led to 3 other small rooms. Now there is a procedure. When we get to a room and there is more rooms, you have to split quickly and split of second without hearing any orders. It's all automatically here. I took the left, my commander took the middle because there was a window open and he thought that he jumped from the window. The other one took the right. My luck, on the left, the terrorist was there. In front of me, half meter. Now, I had less than a split second to decide to kill him, shoot him, and I'm a very good shooter. I can shoot in the head, no problem. We've been trained. But many thoughts going to my head. A week before, there were some children who died in Gaza, blah, blah, blah. There's no time now. but I had to make a decision. So instead of shooting him and killing him, I shoot him in the groin. I don't know how I did it. I just shoot him in the groin. He dropped his weapon, and I jumped on him, and we start dragging him outside from that small room to this room. He lay on the ground, and I asked him, "Why did you run to here? You had many places to hide. 1 mile is a long way. You had many places to hide. Why did you run to this school?" He looked at me, and he gave me the look like this. I'll remember his nicotine, the smoking nicotine from me. He looked at me with a smile, and he said, "Because I know you are chicken. You don't shoot children." I'll never forget that sentence. It was in 1995 or something. I'll never forget that sentence. Now, if I was a regular soldier, I'll just shoot him because he's offending my ego. Boom, I can shoot him. I controlled myself. And I just continues to squeeze his head, waiting for the Shabak to come to take him for interrogation. And that was the moment that I was so proud of myself, because it was along with other 50 or 60 situations, both in Lebanon and Hebron, that we didn't shoot children. That's the message, not to shoot children. When we arrived to the briefing, the post-briefing, we have to go to a brief after this. My friend told me, "Why did you shoot him in the green?" I said, "Because I don't know." He said, "You know what? Tell them that you shot him on the green because you want him to bring him live. Because the job is done, he will get rewarded." To you, I tell the truth, and I said the truth in the brief. I didn't shoot him, I didn't kill him, not because I want to bring him live and complete the mission. I didn't shoot him because he wasn't a threat to me anymore. He dropped the weapon, and I can't kill someone who's not aiming at me. And this is the message I'm asking you to give to the world, to your friends. We don't shoot civilians, and we don't shoot soldiers who are incapable to shoot at us. It's a very, very important story. The other one, there's no time. I'll make it in 1 minute instead of 20 minutes. The one on the structure is another terrorist that we chased, but this is Lebanon. If you recognize the mount behind, it's Marjayun, the one I said. We were chasing, we were handling some 6 or 7 terrorists who were trying to come to a kibbutz to kill children. We managed to eliminate 4 of them. One of them fled back to Marjayun. This one got wounded. I carried him on my shoulder for about 300 meters to the helicopter. All his blood was all over me. And his words on my ear, I speak Arabic, he keeps saying to me, "Man tfadlak, shukran, thank you, I have a baby at home. Don't kill me, I have a baby at home." And that's what he said to me before I shot him. He said to me, "Please spare my life, I have a baby at home." So I took him to the helicopter. I don't know what happened to him. I think he was alive, but this is a very short story. Again, what I'm saying is that we don't really shoot children. We don't shoot people. Please make sure that in Canada, people will understand it. It's very important for me. I do it all over the world. I do my lectures only to explain Israel. We don't shoot children. We don't shoot civilians. Now, do you want a story or do you want questions? This is me, by the way. I was 19. That's Lebanon on the left. I think I was good looking, no?
Still are. Very good looking, and you still are. I don't know if you heard Cantor Simon say that.
And
This is what we'll do.
and
I am opening the chat. If people have questions, please type them into everyone or to me, and I will ask them. In the meantime, I think, Elon, if you would like to continue speaking until I let you know we have a question, and
yes,
we'll take it
yes,
from
I
there.
would like to skip other stories, and I would like to share with you something. I would like to share with you some. It's not easy, it's emotional, but I will do it. Some personal circumstances. I was born into war. I grew up on wars and shelters and bombs. Fears and nightmares were all my childhood. Even when I was playing in the playground, I could not really enjoy the game because we kept expecting to hear the fear of the siren. the siren that would take us to the shelters for a few hours, sometimes for the whole night. I wet my bed from terror, fears until the age of 17. Anxiety and fears surrounded me throughout my childhood and youth. At the age of 18, I joined the army. I decided to serve in the combat unit commando so I could overcome my fears and anxiety. But also, I think, my uncle said that to me, I think I did that to revenge the enemy who ruined my childhood and others. I speak on behalf of thousands of Israeli children in those days. I will skip this. To be honest, I was not impressed to hear about all these unique traits and characteristics about myself. But when I joined the commando unit, why I was chosen, accepted to the commando unit. But I did catch one word, and that word was motivation. And the list of reasons why I was suited to serve in that commando unit. The hunger to take a revenge of the enemy that destroyed my childhood. I served 3 years, during which time I saw death more often than the breakfast I ate. Years in which we did the impossible, only seen in James Bond movies. I then served another 25 years in the army, in the reserve army service, where I was involved in many dangerous activities in pursuing wanted terrorists in Gaza and raids in Lebanon. Even though I was motivated and eager for revenge when I fought those whom I blamed for ruining my childhood, I avoided harming Palestinian civilians and even risked my life many times to do so. I also saved many of them from being harmed by their own people, the terrorists, who show no concern for them. But as I got older, I hated war. I experienced death, blood, and fear. I saw burning bodies. I could not eat meat for years. The smell of barbecue reminded me of burned bodies. I lost 17 friends of mine and 5 members of my family on the battlefields. And I'll tell you that war is bad. War is bad. There are no winners in wars. In war, there is only grief, a lasting eternal grief that will not be forgotten until the day the martyr dies. In spite of the operations and numbers and medals and all that kol hakavod I received in my life during my 28 years of service, in extremely dangerous situations, some including face-to-face fighting with bare hands, I hated war. I hated its victims too. Its victories, sorry. I hated its victories too. I was not happy to kill. Killing is wrong and inhuman, but there are situations when you are compelled to kill. Otherwise, you will be killed. I was reluctant to act in such way. I have written a book called Reluctance Heroes. It will be published in October, where I was commissioned by McFeld publisher in the United States. And there I could share all those thoughts if you want to buy it. I was part of the best army in the world and performed things that the average person does not get to do in his lifetime. I felt like a hero when I subdued the enemy in face-to-face combat, in bunkers and trenches. However, it turns out that as you grow older, the glory alternates with bitterness. This is a rancor that never leaves me, sometimes making me lose my appetite before a meal, or not wanting to laugh. A bitter that it continue to swirl around my mouth and slowly penetrate to my heart through understanding that the war is a stupid act. War is bad. I realize that it's the most stupid invention of mankind of all time. War is an old-fashioned and primitive way of of disputing someone. However, if I have to fight again for my country, I will fight, and I'll be prepared to die for it if I will be asked to. I hope it will never happen again, and peace will come. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. So Elon, we have a few questions. The first is, what is the MBE for in your name? For what services was it awarded?
No, NBE is Jillian. It's mixed up in the email.
Ah, okay, that is Jillian.
Okay,
Very
NBE,
good.
Canadians. NBE is a title given by the Queen to somebody who would contribute to the society in Britain.
Very nice. Okay, here is the next question. Is there a news station that you recommend we watch, or a newspaper you recommend we read because the news is so one-sided?
Ynet.
Ynet.
WNT. Ynet.
NET.
WNET?
No, WNT.
Okay, where is that
Sorry.
from?
YNT.
YNET.
Y
YNET. I have to look
Okay.
at it.
net.
YNET.
Is that an online periodical?
It's online. It's online, and it's the biggest one in Israel. It's in English and Hebrew.
Okay, very, very good. All right, I have to tell you, this has just been mind-blowing. Unbelievable. I would like to know if anyone has questions. I see Ellen is asking if the recording will be sent to participants. We won't send it out, but it's possible that we will post it on our YouTube channel. We will let you know if with Elon's permission. We always wait for permission from the speaker.
Yes.
So most
If
likely.
there is any question about what I just spoke about the army or Lebanon, or why we went to Lebanon, or any question.
Here's a question. The man that you shot in the groin, do you know what happened to him?
Yes, that's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked. He's still alive because we had to follow the case. What was the information that he was supposed to give to the Shabak, because we need to use that information for the next operation. So we were sort of in touch, and I was happy to tell you that he stayed alive. He ended up in prison, but he stayed alive.
Is he out of prison?
Is he out of prison now?
Yes, 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
What's your question?
Has he changed his
Philosophy.
in any way, Elon?
Another good question. We managed to, not me, my friends managed to contact him. He wanted to immigrate to Israel to live in one of the Arabic villages among the Israeli Arabs, and he was threatened. His family was threatened not to do so. He expressed his views that he doesn't want to take part of the war again. But when he dared to express something good about Israel, he was getting threats, and he had children. So he was scared, but I know that he doesn't take part anymore in terror.
Thank you.
And I know that he sent me a letter that was translated to me, I keep it, that he's thanking me for not killing him.
Wow. Now, were you put in your particular combat unit because you spoke Arabic?
Yes, I don't, not 100% like I speak Hebrew, but I will understand full conversation, and I will speak, but read and write I didn't learn, because what I learned is the Arabic in the army. Knowing your enemy, you have to study your enemy. So I learned the Arabic so I can be careful when I'm pursuing, when I get into houses during operations to hear exactly what they say to each other. And it helped us a lot during the combat.
Excellent. Excellent. Your book, you said, is coming out in October. Will you be sure to keep in touch with us and let us know when it is published? Reluctant Heroes. I'm sure the listeners today would be interested in acquiring a copy of that book. It sounds like it's exactly what we need.
Yeah, the book telling all my experience. I'm not talking about Herzl or about Ben Gurion. The book, the publisher specifically asked me, he heard my lecture, and he asked me to write only about my experience. And there was about 25 different stories and operations, including Entebbe operation in 1976.
Wow.
I didn't shoot one bullet in that operation, but I took part of it, and I'm proud. And a description of all my views after, like I just read to you, that I hated war, and I describe a situation that there was a funeral of one of our soldiers, and in the funeral, the Minister of Defense, I'm not going to say his name. I shouted. He said in his, politicians in his eulogy that we're going to continue fight. We're going to continue victory. And I shouted in him, and I said, "There are no winners in wars." And someone came and hugged me and pushed me away, and it was like embarrassing. I wouldn't do it again. I just lost control. I couldn't hear those lies and the politicians who take advantage of funeral of my best friend dying, and he's making, whoa, victorious. No, war is stupid. No more wars. Peace, like we do now. And that's in the book too. It's a lot of views that insights and views that happened to me for the past 10 years when I got older.
Amazing. Bonnie asked a question. She's asking, what happened to the son of the terrorist who spoke at the UN? I believe you said he died last year of COVID, but I was wondering if he had to live his life until then in hiding or avoiding repercussions.
No, it's misunderstood. The terrorist didn't die of COVID.
The son of the terrorist, the son who spoke at the UN.
The son didn't die.
Ah.
The one who was attending, who was shocked with the glasses on, he was the minister in the Palestinian territory. He died last year of COVID. He was like shocked. Why this man talk like that? He's a son of a mega terrorist.
So the one who spoke, is he living in hiding? Have there been attempts on his life by the terrorists?
He lives in America. He lives in America, and he got a green card. He got asylum there, and he is okay. Last time I was in contact with him was, I think, 8 years ago. He is okay.
Unbelievable.
And by the way, if you want to know more about this, those who I spoke to in Gaza and West Bank, like him, who couldn't dare to flee to America, they didn't have the contacts. He had contacts, but because of his father, they were simple people like kiosk owners or builders or whatever. I convinced it took me 2 or 3 years through Shul and other ministers I was active with, to convince the Shabak to give a recommendation to check each individual that they are not a threat. And then I went to the ministry office and the home office and convinced them. I thought maybe 5 or 6 years, and I managed to get about 8 or 9 of those people to live in Israel. And they settled in Arabic villages or in Jaffa, and they are happy there. And many others managed to get to Jordan, managed to get to Kuwait, managed to get to Egypt after the peace. So there were many, I think hundreds, who managed to flee because they didn't believe their leaders. Their leaders are corrupted.
Unbelievable. Elon, thank you so very much for this incredible eye-opening event. I'm so grateful to you for coming to speak with the Song Shul. I know our people appreciate it. Somebody just sent in the YNet website is ynetnews.com. That's the letter Y, N-E-T, like network, ynetnews.com.
Yeah, .com is English, IL is Hebrew. Okay.
Okay, well, ynetnews.com, and hopefully there we will be able to get more news that is less one-sided or properly cited. We're very grateful to you. Thank you to everyone else who came out on a Mother's Day to listen to this and to share this information. Perhaps we'll be able to talk to you again after the book comes out. We look forward to it. We wish you enormous success, Elon.
I hope one day I'll come and visit you in Canada and give you a talk.
Oh, yes. Halavai, it should only be. That would be wonderful.
And maybe Gillian too,
Gillian
yes. Let us just all be healthy to get out of COVID
Yeah.
safely in one piece and unscathed. We wish everyone a happy Mother's Day to the moms. And really, Elon Mikol Alev Toda Rabba Lach.
And
Thank you.
long live Israel, the only state for the Jewish people.
Am Yisrael Chai, absolutely. Thank
Long-
you so
long live
much.
Israel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Just a
Liza.
reminder, a reminder to our
Thank you.
people, this Wednesday evening, we have the Book of Ruth with me. Friday, we have our Adon Olam series live at 6 p.m. And just keep checking your emails for everything we have going on because there's always a lot. Again, Elon, thank you. Regards to Jillian. All the best to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank